He was born Malcolm Little, May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska. He came into this world in a place already marked by division, by color, by power, by fear. His father, Earl Little, was a preacher, a man of fire, of principle, of vision, a follower of Marcus Garvey. He preached independence. He preached pride. He told black people to stand tall and stop waiting for someone to save them. That kind of talk? It made enemies. The Ku Klux Klan didn't just listen, they acted. They rode horses through black neighborhoods. They burned churches. They burned homes. And one night, they came for the Littles. Malcolm was just a baby when they stormed through their yard, shouting, threatening, warning Earl to stop his sermons or suffer the consequences. The family had to run, not just once, again and again. They fled from Omaha to Milwaukee, then to Lansing, Michigan. But no matter where they went, racism came too. In Lansing, Earl tried to start over. He built a house on the edge of town with his own two hands. He wanted space. He wanted peace. But the white neighbors didn't want them there. One night, that house burned down. No sirens, no firefighters, no arrests. The police called it an accident. Malcolm would remember that night forever. He saw the flames. He saw his father's fists clenched in silence. He saw his mother's tears, tears she refused to let fall. Then came the worst blow of all. Earl Little was found dead, lying across the town's streetcar tracks, skull crushed, body mangled. Authorities said it was suicide, or maybe an accident. But the family knew better. They believed he'd been pushed, or worse, murdered, by the same forces that had haunted them for years. And just like that, the protector was gone. The provider, gone. Louise, Malcolm's mother, did everything she could. She was proud, educated, fluent in several languages. She held the family together with willpower alone. She cooked, she cleaned, she begged for fair wages, she applied for government support, but they saw her pride as a threat. "They didn't want us to survive," Malcolm would later say. The state slowly took control. They called Louise unstable, too emotional, too proud. They took her children away one by one, and eventually, they took her too. She was committed to a mental institution. She would remain there for 26 years. Malcolm was placed in foster care, a system that saw him as a statistic, not a child, not a soul. Just another problem to be managed. He was bright, quick-witted. He loved to read. He loved language. But even in school, the walls were closing in. He once told a teacher he wanted to be a lawyer. The teacher smiled, then laughed. "A lawyer? No, Malcolm. Be realistic. You're good with your hands. Maybe become a carpenter." That moment changed him. He didn't say another word. He just nodded, went home, and let the dream die. He stopped believing in the system. He stopped believing in fairness. So he dropped out. He left the textbooks behind and entered the streets. Boston, Harlem, Detroit. He learned how to survive, how to hustle, how to lie if needed, how to fight if pushed. He conked his hair, wore zoot suits, carried a gun, carried pain. People called him Detroit Red. He was sharp, fast, dangerous, and underneath it all, lost. Because the boy from Nebraska, the son of a proud preacher and a proud mother, was still there, but buried, beneath layers of anger, of shame, of hurt. What Malcolm didn't know yet was that the fire that once burned down his home would one day burn inside him, not for revenge, but for something far greater. Purpose, and that fire was just getting started. By the time Malcolm was 20, he had a reputation. He was slick, he was fast, he was dangerous, and he knew it. Life in the streets had taught him the rules. No trust, no mercy, only hustle, only survival. He ran with a crew, burglary, gambling, drugs. They called him Detroit Red, and he lived like the name meant something. Flashy suits, fast talk, sharp edges. But in 1946, it all caught up with him. He and his crew were arrested for breaking and entering. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And just like that, the streets were gone. The suits were gone. The noise, the hustle, gone. Now there were only gray walls, bars, silence, time. At first he was angry, at the world, at the system, at himself. He paced the prison floors like a caged animal, fists clenched, jaw tight, always on edge. But even behind bars he was watching. He was learning, always learning. One day, a fellow inmate handed him a book. He didn't want it, but he took it. He opened the first page, and something shifted. Words, ideas, thoughts bigger than prison walls. He began reading everything he could find: philosophy, history, religion. Night after night, page after page, his mind expanded. He copied entire dictionaries by hand, letter by letter, word by word. It wasn't just learning, it was rebirth. Through books, Malcolm found his voice. Then came a letter from his brother. It spoke of a new path, of a movement, of a man named Elijah Muhammad and a group called the Nation of Islam. They taught that the black man was not inferior, that he was divine, that he was the original. They said the white man was the oppressor, a deceiver, a thief of culture, of history, of power. Malcolm read more. He questioned. He listened. He gave up pork. He gave up smoking. He gave up cursing. And slowly, he gave up Detroit Red. In his place, Malcolm X was born. The X was more than a name. It was a statement, a rejection of the slave name Little, a symbol of the unknown, of a stolen identity, of something lost and something rising. He wrote to Elijah Muhammad. He pledged himself to the cause, to truth, to discipline, to transformation. Prison had been meant to break him. Instead, it made him. Malcolm's transformation didn't happen overnight. It came with silence, with solitude, with pages turned under flickering prison lights. He debated with guards, with inmates, with himself. They said he had a sharp tongue, but sharper questions. He challenged what he'd been taught, asked why history only told one side, why schools skipped the stories of black kings, black queens, black scholars, why truth was buried beneath centuries of lies. He read about African empires, Mali, Ghana, Songhai. He studied the horrors of slavery, not as a victim, but as a witness. He learned how power could be taken and how it could be reclaimed. Books became his armor, knowledge, his weapon, discipline, his shield. And while others counted days, Malcolm counted ideas. He wasn't just serving time, he was preparing, sharpening, building something inside that bars couldn't hold. And soon, others noticed. Prison guards saw a change. So did inmates. They came to him with questions. They watched how he carried himself. No longer fast-talking, loud, flashy. Now calm, controlled, focused. He gave lectures in the yard, held study groups in the cell blocks. He wasn't trying to impress. He was trying to awaken. His letters to Elijah Muhammad became longer, more passionate, more disciplined, and one day, he was approved, accepted into the Nation of Islam, not just in name, but in spirit. When he walked out of that prison in 1952, he didn't just carry books in his hands, he carried a fire in his soul. Malcolm X was no longer a lost boy from Lansing. He was a man forged by pain, refined by truth, driven by vision. And the streets he once ruled, he would return, but not to hustle, not to con. This time, to speak, to lead, to ignite minds, and to shake the foundations of a nation that tried to forget him. But he would not be forgotten. Not anymore.